Hey, all right. So this week, yay, we're finally getting to do real anatomy. Woo! So we're doing tissues this week, which is also known as histology, which literally means the study of tissues. Ology means the study of, and histo meaning tissues. Ology always means the study of things, like biology is the study of living things. Histology is also called microanatomy, which are things that you can only see with magnification, which is as opposed to gross anatomy, which is anatomy of things that you can see with the unaided eye. So anyway, that's enough etymology, which is study of word origins. Ology again. So anyway, we're doing tissues this week. And let's see. Oh, in case you wanted a little bandage here, I had a basal cell carcinoma removed right underneath my eye Monday. So I've got this bandage on, 4 stitches. So that's what that's all about. So anyway, so we're doing tissues this week. We talked about, so far in class, we talked about placement of body organs, where they are in the body. We've talked about what cells look like, what just a basic structure of a mammalian cell looks like, or a eukaryotic cell looks like, and what organelles there are, what parts make up a cell. And we've talked about that there are different types of cells. And in lecture, you've also talked about chemistry, a lot of probably chemistry of water, as well as a little bit of physics and structure of atoms and molecules, that kind of stuff. So we're all starting to bring this stuff together. And so we've talked about cells, we've talked about the microscope, and we've talked about how things get into and out of cells, and a little bit about water getting into and out of cells. And that should all tell you that water is really, really, really important for us. So this week, we're going to talk about how cells get together, how they group together to perform a certain function, okay? So remember that an organ is a collection or a group of tissues that perform a certain function in the body, okay? So this week, we're going to learn that each different type of tissue in an organ has a different function within that organ. And those tissues with these different functions all work together to make an organ that make an organ what it is, and that the properties of all those cells make those tissues do what they do. So we looked at the general structure of a cell, but cells are specialized. Some cells make certain types of proteins, other cells make different types of proteins, and that's what makes those different cells do different things. Okay, so we're going to learn about some of the things that cells make that make them different from other cells in this section right here. We're mostly going to talk about the shape of cells and what the tissues look like, but you also get a little bit about what kind of things make cells different from each other. So anyway, if you've looked over this chapter, and we are looking at chapter 6, histology, okay? And it looks overwhelming, I know. There's a unit outline here in the corner, okay? And I have a study guide that outlines the chapter. It looks overwhelming because there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of pictures, and you're like, what in the world am I looking at? Just follow through the study guide and all that. There are 8 or 9 different types of epithelial tissues. There's 11 connective tissues. There's 1 type of nervous tissue and 3 types of muscle tissue. Okay, so there's 23 or 24 tissues total that you need to know depending on how you count it. It's doable. Just take this all in chunks, like each day a little bit, and you'll get it all down. One thing to realize is that when we talk about a tissue, we're often pointing to just a portion of the photograph, okay, or the photomicrograph is what they're called. Which a photomicrograph is a picture you take through a microscope, or a picture of something that's in a microscope field. So for instance, if you look at page 88, which is here, figure 6.2a, which is this top one up here, okay? We're talking about simple squamous epithelium. We're only talking about this little tiny, tiny line of cells across the top. All the rest of this stuff down here, from here down, is all connective tissue. It's just that little tiny line across top is the simple squamous epithelium, all right? So as you learn the stuff, you'll realize there's actually 2 or 3 tissues shown in that photomicrograph. The in this one, this is labeled underlying connective tissue. Okay. And specifically, there's actually two types of underlying connective tissue here. There's areolar connective tissue and dense irregular connective tissue underneath this. All right, so, but you'll learn that in this chapter. In 6.2b, we're looking at simple cuboidal epithelium here. So the cells are cuboidal shape. There's a space here. You notice up here, there's also a space on that one. Okay, so epithelial cells have, they line spaces and line organs and glands. So here's simple cuboidal epithelium. There's one layer of cells and in simple, and then there's connective tissue all the way around the outside of this. Okay, and then there's some more cuboidal cells over here. So what we're talking about simple cuboidal epithelium is this set of cells right there. Okay, making that ring. All right, so so there's other things that are in this picture. There's also blood vessels here, down here. Okay, and so when we're talking about a tissue, a lot of times we're only talking about part of the photograph. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It mostly applies to the epithelial tissues. The connective tissues tend to be more of the photograph is more which it tends to be like all connective tissue, because connective tissue tends to be fairly thicker kind of tissues. So let's see. The pictures in your book of connective tissue, nervous tissue, muscle tissue, all those three are all pictures of just that type of tissue, nothing else around it. Okay, so, and if you look at the Practice Anatomy Lab pictures on Pearson, you'll see quite a few pictures that have multiple tissues in them. So be aware of what you're looking for, and there may be multiple tissues in there. So look at the Practice Anatomy Lab pictures, also have your book out and your study guide, and you'll be able to pull it all together. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to get on Zoom with you and go through the stuff, and I can screen share, Practice Anatomy Lab with you and go through all that if you'd like. So when you use Practice Anatomy Lab, and I'll tell you how to get there in a second. When you're using Practice Anatomy Lab on Pearson, sorry, I'm talking too fast. Use the Show Labels tab. You'll have this picture and there'll be tabs at the top. Show Labels, click that, and it'll have arrows that point to things, okay, on there. And if you hover over it, it actually makes it opaque. It kind of highlights that region. Okay, so then you'll, oh, that's what I'm looking at. So it'll point to what you're supposed to be looking at in that area of Pearson. So the activities for this week will be to read the chapter, look at the pictures in the chapter so you're familiar with them, very, very familiar with them, wink, wink. And then you get to watch me drone on about the tissues and how they work, how they're put together, what are unique features about them in a 2-hour and 40-minute lecture. Yes, I know that's really long, but that's how long it would actually take when we're in lab. I usually finish right at the 3-hour mark at the in-person lab. Normally we have a 30-minute quiz at the beginning of lab plus 2.5 hours of lecture. We also look through the microscope at microscope slides. So I had to add in some stuff to take the place of the microscope slides. So that's why it ends up being a little over 2.5 hours of lecture. So I'm not just piling stuff on you because we're online. It actually is all important. And remember that if you're okay with it, there's a little that gear icon down there. You can speed me up to 1.5, 2 times speed. If you can take me talking even faster than I'm talking now. And also there's the closed captioning. Okay. So I didn't edit that. So the words might be kind of weird sometimes, so they may not be correct, but it can help you sometimes understand what I'm saying if you can't understand what I'm saying in the video. Or if you have a question, just say, hey, at 3 minutes, 42 seconds in the video, I didn't understand what you say. Just shoot me an email. I'll tell you what it was. Okay. So I'm here to help you. So anyway, with the YouTube lecture, follow along with the study guide, follow along with the book. I try to follow pretty much the way the book goes. Okay. And let's see. And that study guide is a single extra sheet listing all the tissues, to use that to follow along with. And you can check them off as I talk about each one and just check them all the way down. And also draw pictures of these things. It's really important to do. It doesn't have to be fancy pictures, just like draw just basic shapes of the cells. And that it really helps you cement in your head what the differences are. Okay. So let's see, after the lecture, You'll be ready for the questions in the book and the assignments on Pearson. Normally, we would look at microscope slides in the lab and look and see what the different tissues look like. So use those pictures of the book, look at the pictures in the practice anatomy lab, because those are actually really pretty pictures. They're really good pictures. Practice anatomy lab, log into Pearson, and on the left side, this is my left. This is my left hand here. So, and I think it reverses itself in the camera. Anyway, there's this, look on the left side, there's study area. Click launch study area. Click practice anatomy lab. Click the button for PAL 3.1. Click, go to the histology section, and you'll see different sections there for epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Okay, so all the pictures are in one of those 4 categories. Pearson also has flashcards that you can use if you want. I've never found flashcards to be particularly useful for me personally, but some people love them. So do whatever works for you. I highly, strongly, very much encourage you to draw pictures of things. It really, really helps you. It helps me cement things in my brain, and I think it helps most everybody to do that. Write down the names of it, and draw just a goofy little picture of it. Let's see, quiz 5 over lab 5 tissues will be available February 18th through the 28th instead of the 25th. Since this is a longer set of material, I'm going to give you a little bit longer to take the test. So normally it's just 18th to 25th, but this time it'll be through the 28th. So it's this Thursday through next Sunday. Okay. And for the quiz, you'll need to know what things are called and what they look like. The vast majority of things, I'm not going to ask you where a tissue is found in the body. I'm not going to say what type of tissue is found in, say, a gland. Okay. But I will say on test, this particular tissue is found in this place. What type of tissue is it? Okay. I'll ask that kind of question on the test, right? But there'll be a picture of it. And so I think you'll be able to figure it out. I only put where that tissue is just as a kind of a clue to help you figure out what type of tissue that is. So, but you don't have to memorize at this point what tissues go where, because that's kind of confusing in some places, because it's hard to figure out exactly what part of an organ certain tissues are in until you get more familiar with the actual functions of that organ and how it's actually all put together. So like, for instance, let's see, like where exactly is a kidney tubule? What does it look like? Or what exactly is the papillary dermis versus the reticular dermis? We haven't done the integumentary system yet, so you'll understand those when we get to those at the end of the year. But right now, papillary dermis and reticular dermis look very similar. They all look like dense, irregular connective tissue, but there actually is some slight differences between them. Reticular dermis has reticular fibers in it, which you're going to learn about in this lesson. But all of that is going to get really confusing if we try to pile all that stuff on at the same time. What I want you to know is what the tissues look like and what they're called. Okay, those 2 main things. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about where they are in various organs later on, how they all fit together, and how they all work together. I'm going to go over a little bit of that, how they work together, as we're building this up in this lesson. But mostly, what I really mostly want you to get out of this is what does the tissue look like and what they're called. Because the goal is when I mention simple squamous epithelium or dense regular connective tissue or dense irregular connective tissue or skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle, I want you to have a picture in your head of what that looks like. Okay. So I should also point out that there's some additional video resources that I put a link to down below the study guides. They're just different people talking about the same things that I talk about, but in a different way. So if you want to hear it in a different way, feel free to use those links. Both of them use drawings. They draw on a whiteboard, or the guys, Doctors Matt and Mike, draw on a big whiteboard. They're standing up, and let's see, the lady, she uses like a piece of paper on a desk, and the camera's over her, and she's drawing on the desk. So, but both of them use drawings, and those are really useful. And you can match those drawings up to the pictures in your book. So the book makes a big deal about what's called a concept map. And they do this all the way through the book. Think of that as like a flow chart. And this might be helpful for this lesson. And I might see if I can figure out a way to come up with something for you guys an example. If you want to come up with those for yourself, they're great. That's great. That's fine. But it's where you look at a tissue, pick a feature, and then another feature which leads you into the category. So it's kind of like a reverse of the, well, it's kind of like the NCAA tournament. It's like, is it this or this? If it's yes or no. If it's yes, then go here. If it's no, then go back to start, kind of thing. So that's what a concept map is. What they call a concept map in this book. I'm not sure how useful that is to do by yourselves. I think it'd be difficult until it's easy to do after you know the stuff. It's hard to do while you're learning the stuff. And it's much easier to do in a group setting than it is to do by yourselves because you can get off track pretty easy. I'll play around with it and see if I can come up with some ways of doing that. If I come up with something good, I'll post that so you can see it. Let's see if anybody wants to review the stuff in person on Zoom. Let me know. If you all want a group session, let me know. Otherwise, email me, text me, or call me with questions. And I hope you guys have a great week. Bye.